to try to read the names of the rivers.
I don't understand.
There's
Where?
two,
Okay.
but I have these that need to be folded for Sunday, and I included some powerful applications.
I didn't get any minutes. Pardon me?
Did you two hear what Max Oberg was?
This is fine.
I checked
Took everything out.
partly because
You need to.
what do you call it? When they came like four on your face. I think that's what. Yeah. I think that's what. Quite a lot.
Something about it has to be
These are the people, right?
I would want to read it then.
All right.
Absolutely fully on.
I might have a copy.
Oh, yeah. Usually I keep it in here, but I had to use this for.
I always try to give you a copy and you say no, and the one
I know.
time that I need a
Do you
copy.
need something that I might have?
Yeah,
Acknowledgement.
Let's see if it's in the drive.
Boy, this is high up for
I
typing,
feel a
isn't
little
it?
weird. I think my seat's
I
actually
know.
pretty high.
These are meant to be left.
I'm too short for
Not up.
this.
Should have said the table there.
I'm ready to start when you guys are.
oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't know. No, I'm looking for a copy of the.
Okay. Here's our agenda.
You might have to.
I know, it's spreading all
I
out.
always have a copy. And wait until. Okay, here. I got it.
You good?
I need a copy in the drive.
Their statement. Okay. Yeah.
We're long meeting.
You talk about the cruises. Remember, I know you said something.
Yeah, but I talked to someone, she said it might not have been issue.
Exactly.
My brain's gone.
Okay, so I got that.
Your notebook of goodies.
Okay.
Two phones? Two phones?
Yeah, one for work and one personal. That's we good, right? We have a quorum?
Yes.
One, two, three. So we do have a quorum, so we need to start. Good evening, Danvers. I'm Jutoshin Joko, Chair of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. Welcome to our June 2022 Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. I will ask our committee member, David McKenna, to please read the Native Land Acknowledgement.
In keeping with our values of equity and inclusion, and to support those who experience marginalization, this evening's meeting will begin with a Native American land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Namkeg people. Historic evidence shows that the Namkeg were peaceful in their relations with European settlers. However, their population depleted rapidly due to the Europeans' introduction of European diseases. May have been smallpox, we're not sure, but it was European diseases that wiped out most of them. As we begin our meeting, we acknowledge and honor the Namkeg community, who were the original inhabitants of what is now known as Danvers, Massachusetts, but was then called by them, and I'm probably going to butcher this, and I apologize to anybody who's listening, they called it Wakweneshok, which in English means birchwood. Let us take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that we have collectively gathered up and support the resilience and strength of that indigenous people have shown worldwide and who still walk among us.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to the third item on the agenda, which is the citizen queries, I'd like us to take a minute. We've all heard the sad news of the passing of our former town manager, Wayne Marquis. Although I did not know him personally, I knew of him. Everybody that I've spoken to speaks very highly of him. So our prayers and thought with his family. One of the town employee, I will quote here, said that he was a man of integrity, compassion, and dedication to the town of Danvers, without a hint of overstating what was obvious to those who knew him, was that he was a good and gentleman with genuine concern for the well-being of others. He demonstrated that on a daily basis in his dealing with employees, their families, and all the residents of Danvers. While everyone may not have agreed with some of his decisions, you could be sure that it was what he believed to be in the best interest of the town. And I hope that he left even a little of that behind in each of us. So I urge us to take a minute of silence in the memory of our former town manager, Wayne Marquis. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is citizen queries. If there's any resident who have any questions, comments. None? Okay, perfect. We did not get the minutes of the May meeting, so we will approve that during the next meeting. And our students, I believe, are on vacation now, right? They've graduated and yes. So we will hopefully have we have them back in September. That's the next time. Perfect. I'm going through this agenda pretty quick now. Right? We're already at item number 6, so which is the DEI report out. Jasmine?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Jasmine Ramon, she, her, hers, Director of Equity and Inclusion. I wanted to remind you all and the community that I am having what I'm calling open office hours. So Tuesdays, 10:30 to 12, Thursdays, 4:30 to 6. This is just blocks I've set aside for members of the community or anyone who would like to check in to just, again, create those proactive relationships. So the first time we're, interacting isn't because there's a crisis, God forbid. So really just trying to meet more people in the town, learn more about the context for this place that I've been working in for almost 2 months now. And I strongly encourage committee members too, who I haven't met with yet, schedule time to connect with me, because I've had a blast so far with those I have met. So that's the first kind of chunk and reminder. Next, for committee members, I was contacted by Dorween Wade from Salem United, Inc., and she was extending an invitation for people who are passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, who have both as volunteers and me in my capacity as a local government worker, to participate in 2 events that they have happening in July, the first of which is the Negro Election Day flag raising. This is Friday, July 15th at 12 p.m. And so this is an invitation for you all to attend, and I believe she asked me if I would be willing to raise one of the flags, and this event is to celebrate essentially Black Americans' right to participate in voting and all of that. And then the next day, the Salem United Inc. is hosting a full celebration. So Saturday, July 16th, the parade time is at 12 p.m. And again, this was an invitation for me and people who are passionate about this work in the community. She was asking if a couple of us want to be in the parade, as well as attend to watch. So I wanted to extend that to you all as people who are partners with me in this work. And so you can email me directly for more information. And then this third bit, I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge our upcoming holiday on Monday, Juneteenth. And I know for many of us, we have off. And I really wanted to encourage those of us, especially those of us who don't identify as Black or African American, to really consider the implications of that day. As we reflect on the emphasis and importance of freedom in this country, I ask us to consider what it might have been like back in the day, right, especially around the 4th of July, to watch a country celebrate freedom that you knew wasn't granted to you or the people who looked like you in that same country. And so I offered up a couple following reflection questions that I also asked town employees to reflect on as well. So I'll just list them briefly, but first I asked, is Juneteenth new to you, and why might you not have learned about it growing up? Who are the Black people in your lives, and what are some narratives or even stereotypes of Blackness that you know of? Where, if anywhere, do you go to hear more specifically about the African American experience in this country? How might the experience of an African American be different from a recent African immigrant in America, a Black Caribbean American, or a Black Hispanic American? And my last part is, what can you, in your identities, do to uplift Black voices and elevate this history? How can you help spread awareness about this in your circles? And so happy to repeat those, or they'll be in the meeting minutes, but just things to contemplate and take up conversation with those in your lives about, because again, we get a day off, but there's implications to that. I saved the best for last, and I'm sad David Mills isn't here, but I'll have to text him. We got the green light on the crosswalk, our Pride crosswalk, so the company should be painting that sometime tonight. So yeah, apparently it typically happens late at night. So I don't know about you all, but first thing I'm doing when I get to town tomorrow is taking a peek. But that's supposed to be happening within the next 24 hours. So you did it, congratulations. Where is it again? Elm and Page?
By Murphy's Market, there's a crosswalk. It's not the, I don't believe it's the crosswalk, the big crosswalk that crosses, what is it?
I want to say
Street.
Elm and Page. That's,
Peach, yeah, it's right at the corner of.
which might mean more to you than me.
That's
Fresh
Page Street,
Market?
the rest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
In front of the fresh market.
I think that's what it is, yeah, sure.
but that's all I have.
Exciting.
Would you repeat the dates again for the Salem events?
Friday, July 15th, Saturday, July 16th.
This week, oh, July.
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome. That's great news. Thank you, Jasmine. Are you all set? Are you done? Okay.
And
Any chance? So the two events, can you email that to
Yes.
the Perfect, as well as the questions.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
For the crosswalk, we had talked at the Pride Planning Committee about, or subcommittee, about maybe having like a ribbon cutting or some way to actively acknowledge it. I don't know if it's happening tonight. I don't think we can do that, put that in place by tomorrow, but I do think we should do something instead of being passive about it. I don't
Yeah.
know what that would be, but we should think about how we want to celebrate that as a committee.
I would think we'd
I
want
totally
David
agree.
Mills involved in doing that. So
I wasn't aware that it was happening tonight either.
That just came through today.
After the last, I was actually at the select board meeting, their last meeting, to speak of this issue. And I was under the impression that there were actually some select board member who would have wanted to be there while it's painting. And the town manager was gonna communicate that, so I'm not sure, maybe the company, because they're using an outside company, and they were waiting for paint. Maybe the company just decided to do it today. I'm not sure.
And
Yes, Bob.
I don't know whether you know, I mean, it's been in the news, but in Idaho, there was an attempt to disrupt an LGBTQ plus community. Now that Antifa and Black Lives Matter have faded, they are now the targets. So we should be especially vigilant and monitor any actions that are taken against this community, precious community.
Definitely.
And also just to note that, so one of the reasons I was told that they're gonna do it so late or like overnight is in part just because of traffic. So that was the only kind of point of clarity about why the time is what it was.
Yes, Pastor Doc.
I was just wondering if, I mean, the next big event that's happening is Juneteenth. So is there any way to kind of integrate a ribbon cutting for the crosswalk, kind of like tying it in, since there's a gathering that's happening for that celebration, you know, and I'm not saying that those two events are, I mean, there's a correlation, you know, to an extent, but they're very different in and of themselves as well. But there's a gathering that's happening for Juneteenth. Is there a way to tie a ribbon cutting for the crosswalk, since that's all happening? Just a thought. I don't know if that would work, since.
I mean, my thought is, if it's happening tonight, from what I gather from the people actually wanted to be there while it's getting painted.
Right.
Obviously, that's not going to happen. But if there's going to be any sort of ribbon cutting or anything like that, that has to be done with the town manager and the select board. So I don't think we should unanimously like set a date. So I'll say if it's happening tonight, we probably will communicate with the town manager tomorrow and find out if he's putting something together, and then communicate to all the members. If he's not, then we can go ahead and put something. That's my thought. But we may want to concur with the town to see. 'Cause my belief is that they really wanted to make it a true official thing. It's usually the town manager does not go to select board for street painting or repair and things like that. But he felt this was a unique situation, and he said he wanted to bring it to their attention prior to it being done, and that's why he proposed it at the last select board meeting, and they were unanimously supportive of the idea. So I think we will follow up with town manager and then communicate to everyone on the day we want to go there and take a look together.
Yeah, even if it's not like a ribbon cutting per se, but even if we chose a date, I know June is like the hardest time to get together, but if we chose a date, it's not like it's gone after June, right? So if it's the last week of June, it's still going to be there, and it's maybe it's like a picture, come for a picture, and then like patronize local businesses, and you know, something that it doesn't have to be a formal thing. And great if leadership wants to come or can come, but that way we have our own way that maybe is a little more flexible too.
To get it done.
Was there also talk of like having some sort of signage acknowledging the crosswalk as well? Whether it was like a plaque or a sign, or was there any talk of
We
that?
didn't talk about it in the planning meeting, no.
Any other questions, comments for Jasmine? None? Okay, perfect. The anti-bias language training. You again, Jasmine. You and Kristen.
It's happening. I think that really, I mentioned last time proposing what was called Words Matter. So this is a training or a workshop that would be specifically for our committee, but open to the community. And this is an opportunity to basically build the foundation of our social justice glossaries, if you will, give us a common ground of language to know how to refer to groups and to engage in these conversations, and to begin to practice applying some of that terminology to the work that we're doing. And to have and to engage in conversation around this evolving nature of language and why it's something small but is very important. And so we've talked about it, but I think the last steps are deciding the format and a date and time.
Perfect. So to be continued as to, perfect.
My question would be who decides date and time, and how do we engage in that? Because I would imagine we would want feedback from the committee about some of that.
Sure.
I would imagine the committee would want to take part too, and I personally would, so.
It's actually for the committee. Yes,
Glad
it's so all of us.
Glad to hear it.
So any idea as to what format we can use, or how does the committee envision having? And I actually during and we'll probably talk about the Pride recap debrief during the Pride event, and I failed to do that today, and I told you I was gonna fail to do that. It was to actually encourage members to use their pronouns when they introduce themselves. Jitoshin Joko, my pronouns are he, him, his. I've been practicing that with Jasmine. and so these are very baby steps and simple things that we can do to reaffirm that we are really opening our doors and welcoming to everyone. So I encourage the members whenever possible to do that if you feel comfortable. But as far as the language is concerned, any idea as to what we think would be the format? Do we just, yes?
I'm sorry, did you say how long it was gonna be? Did we get a time frame for like how long it might take? Because I wonder
No.
if we could do it on like a meeting night, where we did it in the beginning of the meeting or something like that, and then, or just because I know that we always have this time reserved.
So we do have some flexibility. Again, this is a training I've done multiple times, and I've done it an hour, I've done it 2. 90 minutes seem to be a sweet spot. So we have some flexibility with that, as well as some flexibility with, it is like a whole list of terms, but in terms of what we would focus in on for that 90 minutes, if you will, that's also, there is some flexibility. So I would love input from the committee so I can tailor it specifically to us.
So do we want to do it on a meeting night, or do we want to schedule some time for the training outside of the meeting?
Personally, I don't want to be embarrassed on TV. I think I said that before. I'm just kidding. Now relax. Okay, but here's the thing. I think we should take an hour and a half. And I don't think we maybe want to take a time away from the meeting. I don't think that, now we'd have to work with, I'm free, I'm retired, I'm not speaking from, but there are we've got people that are on this committee that have grave responsibilities, and we should be able to come up with a time that we can all do, and I'm sure it's not gonna be between 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, but just set a time. And if we have to poll the committee, do it that way, because I don't feel like we want to give up, we don't want to give up any time to do this, number one, and I don't want to give up any time in the meeting time. We don't know what's going to hit us at the next meeting. And we come in and we schedule this type of thing, and all of a sudden, there's an issue, and we've got the room filled, and we're not doing it. So, I personally would like to set a time, try to get the committee, it may take, summer's tough, July and August, but it may take us into the early fall, and then folks with families can pick a night, choose a night, and we go at it for about an hour and a half. I think that's the best way. It doesn't have to be televised. We'll just do it, and it's like a class. It's like a seminar. That's my thought.
Thank you. Any idea, David?
I think that makes sense. Not really being sure exactly what this is, but it sounds like it's something we should try to televise if possible. If not live, at least have it recorded, so other people can benefit from it as well. But it might make sense not to tie up an hour and a half at a meeting when something else could come up. I think Paul is correct on that.
I just want to volunteer the information as well that when I have done this training predominantly on Zoom, as a kind of compromise between your two viewpoints, I've done recording of the beginning piece, which is more explaining and pointing to images on a screen, and then I've kind of stopped the recording at the point that the groups engage in conversation, like when they would go to Zoom breakout rooms, if you will, to encourage, like to create a braver or more courageous space in that way, and then just like started recording at the end for wrap-up comments that I had. So there are ways around that, for sure.
Comment, questions, Donna?
I'm pretty flexible. I just need to know in advance when it's going to be. But I do know we've got some families here, so I don't know if summer break from school is going to interfere with their plans. If we have it the same night as the meeting, I'd like to do it beforehand, not at the meeting time. I don't think we should. It shouldn't supersede the meeting or take the place of the meeting. But I have no problem doing it the night of a meeting if that's convenient for everyone, because it's already on our schedules.
Thank you. Kristen?
I think we should do it a weeknight in September, so we have time to plan. Separate from this meeting, I agree. And yeah, have it, I like the idea of televising the first half and then pausing when there's any sort of breakout so people feel safer to have the conversations. I agree with that.
Bill?
I'd like to see it separate to the meeting, and just, even if we plan for an hour and a half, we might want to go 2. And I don't want anything else booked or where we rush this so we don't do it right.
Bob?
No comment.
Amanda?
I will be as flexible as we can be to get this done, because I think it's important, and I think if there's a way, I guess I'm just curious if people are interested in doing it on Zoom. Is that sort of what you were suggesting, Jasmine, that sometimes it can be effective that way? Because that might be helpful for people.
I was only suggesting that that's the main way I've done it because it was during the
Okay.
pandemic, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be flexible.
Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, I'm flexible as well, and I think a special meeting might be workable as well. If we could just find a time that would work for everyone and we all commit ourselves to doing it, it would be, dedicated time and uninterrupted and no interference.
Okay. So it sounds like we might be shooting for like an evening night in September, maybe. Maybe the second Thursday, if people don't have other commitments. Since Thursday is the late night at Town Hall.
The fourth Thursday of,
Or the
just
fourth.
looking, the fourth Thursday of September is wide open. We have a meeting, regular scheduled meeting the week before that.
Yeah.
The Thursday before that, but, if that's possible. I'm not throwing it out but it's an idea, something like that.
So tentative date will be the fourth Thursday in September.
It'll be September 22nd, I believe it is.
Perfect, thank you very much. Next item will be the Hypnia Center Collaboration Update. Kristen?
So I know I've talked about this at a few meetings. The Heathmere Center reached out to us about collaborating on a dialogue event. And we covered a lot of it last meeting, but we received the proposal for what that would actually look like. So I figure it's a little long, but I'll just read through it so that everyone can understand. So the Heathmere Center for Cultural Engagement is a North Shore nonprofit whose mission is to strengthen communities through dialogue and education. Our role is to support communities to develop the skills to come together to talk about difficult issues in a way that promotes mutual understanding and connection across difference. Based on my conversations with Dee DeJoko, Kristen Perkins, and Jasmine Ramon, I have drawn up a tentative agenda for a 3-hour dialogue session in September 2022 for a cost of $750, materials inclusive. I am proposing we begin the small group dialogues with more general questions in order to help folks connect, and then move into questions touching on race and racism in the second dialogue. This is just a suggestion, and I would want to get a bit more information on where your group is and also work with Jasmine in order to provide the best program to follow up on her summer training. That training is referring to what we just talked about. The dialogue, so that she breaks it down by what and why. What, defining reflective, structured dialogue versus debate, deliberation, and discussion. It would be 10 minutes in length, and there would be a handout. Creating communication agreements, an exercise, that would be an exercise, and it would be 10 minutes. Why, neurobiology of threat would be a handout, 10 minutes. Questions of curiosity versus questions of persuasion would be an exercise for 10 minutes. Social identity profile, privilege and resistance worksheet, 10 minutes. Elephant and rider, 10 minutes. The next step after dialogue would be small group dialogues, 7 to 8 people each. These 2 dialogues will be private and not open to the general public. I will work with Jasmine to determine the best questions to help people listen to one another and speak honestly about their own experiences. The general dialogue structure would go over communication agreements. Question 1, 1 minute of silent reflection before timed go-arounds for each person to have a chance to speak before engaging in back and forth conversation. A sample question is talk about a time when you felt that a value, principle, or ideal that is close to your heart was not acknowledged by others. Question 2, 1 minute of silent reflection before timed go-arounds for each person to have a chance to speak before engaging in back and forth conversation. Sample question, when it comes to being a strong and welcoming community, what is at the heart of the matter for you? Open back and forth discussion with curious questions, and then a debrief. And then large group dialogue is another option, 15 people. The idea was to make this part open to the public so people could have an idea of the sorts of conversations that the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee would like to promote going forward. We could also remain in small groups depending on the need. Some sample questions. Think about a time when you had the chance to talk with someone about race or racial bias but chose not to do so. What made that conversation feel challenging? What made you pause, and how does that relate to how you're approaching the conversation today? Share an experience that you've had when you became aware of that race, ethnicity, or bias about another core identity was a significant factor in your work and or personal life. Or what life experience has most significantly taught you about encounters across racial and ethnic differences? How were you impacted by that experience? For example, what were the effects on your feelings about yourself and others, about a group, or about a community? Were there any effects on your actions? What does it mean to you to be talking about that experience here? Please let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to working with you all. So that's the proposal. It's really, as you can tell, a couple of different formats to really help facilitate dialogue. That's the goal. So what we talked about last meeting is that we would start with our group, and we could have all of us, and it can be open to the public for, again, like we just talked about for the first part perhaps, and then breaking into those small group dialogues. It could be more closed session, but we can kind of think about what we want that to look like. Any thoughts, questions? I know it's a lot of information. I think what we need to do today is agree that we want to do this, agree that we are willing to pay the $750, and all the details of what we want this to look like. I think we can, if we target a September, October timeframe, I don't think we have to have all those answers today. So we can start the planning now, but I think let's just maybe go through and see that everyone agrees. If that sounds good, Dee?
Sure. David, any questions, comments?
Not at this point.
Paul?
Well, I just hold. It sounds like this is something that we want to do as the committee first,
That's correct.
similar to what we just finished
Yes.
speaking about.
That's correct.
We do have a budget, so we should be able to cover that with the budget, I believe. Unless there was another way to do it. Friends, I'm not so sure how far we're gonna go with moving this kind of money. Other than the budget that we have, so I can't remember what the number was. I wanna say somewhere around $1,600. what do we anticipate using that $1,600 for in the future, for the rest of the, in other words, starting July 1st, all the way through next year? We have the Martin Luther King event, which we haven't had in 2 years now, but there are expenses that come with that. So, I don't know where the money's gonna, and I'm not, this is not a money issue, please don't misunderstand me, but it's a money issue once we don't have money. All right, so, we wanna get into extensive fundraising. Are there other means, are there other avenues within the town budget to help us with some of these type of events? But that being said, I'm for it, except that I don't know if we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, or 4 like this, then we have to have a budget that may be more extensive than the kind of budget that we have now, presently been approved by the town.
Yeah, I do think that if we agree with the principle that this is something we want to pursue, then we will go to the town and say, this is something we want to do, and this is what we need to get it done. As long as this committee is okay with the idea that we move forward.
This is something we wanna take from the committee out to the public.
That's correct.
So there's growth potential.
That's correct. It's kind of, it's almost like training the trainer.
Well, and then that's the approach, I think.
Yes.
Personally, I think we should use, when we talk to the, eventually probably Jasmine's gonna be brought into this one too, with the town manager and then the budget. Now, I think it's important that as this committee's approach to a lot of things that we're presented with, we're going in other directions than we have over the last decade and a half since I've been on this committee. And I think that's what we have to do. But we have to have the resources to do it, and it's the town's responsibility to help us with this. Because I don't think any of us are on this committee to go out and be fundraisers. That's a tough job to have.
Not easy at all. And
No, not easy at all.
and I think, I mean, the way I look at it is, if this is something we want to do, then we pursue it, and then we go back, we go to the town and say, this is something we want to do, and these are the resources that we need.
Right, and I think that, going right back to the previous item on the agenda, set a date, and let's go. Because, you know, I've been on this committee where we set a date, and we don't set a date, and we don't set a date, and then before you know it, we're trying to catch up with a
I'm type A, we'll set a date, don't worry.
And maybe you wanna try to make it in late September, early October, because
Yeah.
we're already committed to
Yeah.
the Jasmine's program
Agreed.
in September. So, because we're gonna have to get the committee together again and choose a date. A busy committee, busy families.
Thank you, Paul. Donna?
No, I think it sounds really good. I guess I have, I'm all for any kind of training I can get on the subject, first of all. So, that being said, I'm definitely for wanting to do this, but you said something about train the trainer. So I guess I have some questions about what is it we want to do with this once we have the training. Again, we're the.
Yeah, so it's not technically a train the
Okay.
trainer. We're the trainers in terms of we're the leaders in the town that do this,
Okay,
but
all
not,
right.
we're not expected to then train other people. So what I think would happen is we treat this as a pilot, right? We spend the money on this up front. We see if we like it. We see if we'd make changes to it. We give that feedback to Lauren, who is the head here at Heathmere, and she's very flexible. She wants this to serve us, so we should tell her what we want the outcome to be, and then we can make changes. And then, like David Mills was saying at the last meeting, the senior center wants to run something like this, and so then, you know, even thinking about the budget, like if this is approved and there's interest in the town, perhaps this is a shared expense across the groups that want to host it, if the library wants to do it or the senior center. But I think we have to kind of be the guinea pigs first to see what we like about it, what we want to change, and then Heathmere can run these dialogues more wherever we want to do it.
Okay, my whole background too has been in training.
Oh.
Mainly training adults, so, yeah, I would, as long as that, okay, that's just what I had a question about.
Yeah,
All right.
perfect. Thank you. Bill?
My question has to do with finances. And Paul, have we been able to raise enough money for the MLK to not use some of our budget?
Not
for
over
that?
the past 2 years, I wouldn't say no, because we haven't had the live event.
No.
Now, hopefully this year.
No, but I mean, when we were doing it live.
Yeah, we did pretty well. We did pretty well. I mean, I don't like to speak in frank detail.
But if we
When
can
we're being-
count on that, then 750 is out of our 1,600 budget or
Well,
something.
at one point, you have to remember the history of this committee. We didn't have a line item budget in the annual budget. This just happened, I wanna say 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a very generous, amount of money for what we were trying to do, but it did help cover some of the MLK event. Basically, I would say the reception part of it. All right, other than that, there wasn't a lot of expense. But, you know, we wanna raise money for scholarships, which is on the agenda tonight too. And then all the other, this committee has taken leaps and bounds, strides. These events we've never had. There isn't a Juneteenth and a gay pride and a flag raising, and it goes on and on and on, and that's all positive. But as we grow in this area, you know, we're gonna have to look, and I think what Kristen just mentioned struck a chord with me. Bring in other groups in town, the library, there's others. People, we've got a lot of committees here that I think feel the way we do. But again, we always have to remember that we're preaching to the choir here in some respects. Now, how do we get outside the choir to those that don't believe us and don't want to listen to what we have to say? That's the goal, I think, in my mind, to what
Okay.
we're talking about with this particular type of event.
Given the town budget, I really think it'd be pretty presumptuous to count on us getting much more money from them.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, sure. But then there may be other groups that want to, if they see us, we don't know, there may be some other group that's in town. It could be one of the service organizations that we could bring into it. Again, I won't mention names because I don't want to put them on the spot now, but I think we all know who those folks are, and they've been supportive at times. So there's avenues out there, but we may want to have a subcommittee on fundraising at some point. And I guarantee I don't want to be on that one. No, I'm
Not
just
good at
kidding.
that.
Thank you, Bill. Bob?
Yeah, we're living in an age of tribalism where groups have gone to extremes. They don't talk to each other. They don't deal with each other. But I go with what Paul was saying. You know, you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, I was raised and brought up in New York City. I mean, walk down any street, you're going to see diversity. You know, so I mean, is this the vehicle for us? You know, I question the price tag. I mean, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to be models? Pass it on? Should we be looking at other options? You know, that are less expensive.
I'm happy to comment. So the purpose of this is not to teach us about diversity. It's to teach us how to have dialogue. And I think the
Can I just
interest.
interrupt you? I mean, you walk down a city street, you're going to have dialogue. You can't survive otherwise. So, you know,
I
that's
think
why
this
you're
is a
speaking to the
perfect-
choir here.
I know. I think this is a perfect example, though, right? Like, we need to be able to listen and talk. I think there was a meeting a couple of months ago where there was a subcommittee where people weren't able to hear each other because people were so focused on what they wanted to say to each other. And so I think this is bigger than this committee. It's actually teaching like life skills, and we are able to be leaders of that here because I think that's actually what will change things. You know, the people in our town that have very left and right positions have oftentimes not a lot to do with the things we talk about here every day, but teaching these skills will I don't know, be contagious, I guess. So I think it's not about, you know, it doesn't have to be about race, gender, sexual orientation or that. It's about disagreeing with each other respectfully. And so I see the value just as human being in that case. I hope that was helpful.
And I also think that means it's true. I think all of us here are fierce advocates of these issues. And but if Hypnia wants to come and help us in the town, I think it's very difficult to just have them come and speak to everybody in Danvers at the same time. So I think this is a way for us to familiarize ourselves with what the program is, what is it that they're going to be talking about, and is it really something that we want for our town? So like Kristen said, we're kind of like guinea pigs into this. And if this is something that we want to pursue, then we start to expand it to the people outside of our group who, like you said, really need it. Because we already in that bucket where we're advocate. We understand these issues, but how do we talk about it to other people or among ourselves is still a learning curve for myself and I'm sure all of us. So this is a way to bring it inside the town, and we will be that vehicle to be able to bring it to the general public. That at least that's how I see the training.
I think it's like, it's about figuring out how to call people into the conversation, which is, I know, something we've talked about a little bit, and why I really wanted to be a part of this committee, because I think it's really hard, and when you're committed to the work, you think you have to call everything out, you know, like it's really important, and yet when you're calling things out, sometimes you shut down communication, and people can't necessarily join, and so how do you call people in thoughtful ways to be able to share lived experiences, to be able to say, well, you know, here's my experience, and it's hard work, and I think we need support to do it. So I think we make the investment and we see how it goes, and if it's not serving us, then we can reevaluate.
Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue is a little bit about that we are all appointed members to represent a certain point of view for the town of Danvers. We're supposed to be like kind of the point of the spear on recognizing issues that need to be addressed and developing strategies and approaches to address them, and then assessing and evaluating how those things have happened and coming back with other strategies to ensure that there's a continuing dialogue and discussion about these issues as we educate the broader community, which in that respect, I feel it shouldn't be incumbent upon this group to determine where the resources come for that to happen. I think we need to have a conversation with our town officials about things that we think need to happen that will make us better equipped and better prepared and better enabled to do the job that they've appointed us to do. We have limitations. We're raising money, trying to do things, and we have limited resources in that context. Even despite the merits of this program, I don't think that it's necessarily our responsibility to independently come up with a strategy to do something that's in the benefit for the entire community, which we've been asked to lead on developing strategies to address. So my point would be to perhaps we need to have a discussion about where do the resources come from when we make a determination that something that needs to be done that will advance our work and strengthen this community's capability to deal with these issues. Where do we then turn to for the resources for that to happen? Who do we make our case to in order to secure the resources for that to happen? And I think that would enable us to know we could do a certain number of events a year, or we should plan a certain number of events a year and be budgeted ahead of time so that we don't have to have a discussion like we're having right now, choosing between A and B, both of which have merit, but if you do A, you can't do B, and it puts us at a disadvantage for the work that we're doing, in my opinion.
I agree entirely with that.
Thank you very much. So, so what's the next step then? Do we?
So I can follow up and just start planning and offer perhaps October as an option, and keep everyone informed about what we want to do in terms of like breaking out into smaller groups, breaking out into a larger group. I think we can probably pause for now and then get back with Lauren, talk about what we just shared, and see what's next. Also, I mentioned this in a past meeting, but I'll mention it now. This isn't a novel idea. Beverly has been doing this for a while. So leaders are doing this in Beverly. This is hosted by their library. The library is connected, and that's what brought us here today. So if we need to make the case to the town that we need to keep up with the times, and other towns have been doing this for a while, then that may help. But I agree. So I think I can take the next steps, and I can keep the committee updated.
If I could just make a footnote, I mean, I think there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis sometimes for these things. There's a cost for doing this, but there's a cost for not doing it. And so what we have to ask ourselves is, what are the implications of not doing some of these things that members who are sitting on this board, who have worked on these items and talked with the people who are doing this work, what's the cost of not doing what board members are recommending that we do? Because in the analysis, if something comes up in the future and someone says, why weren't you prepared to deal with this? We'll say, well, we brought this up, we discussed this, we had no insufficient resources to do something. So the cost of not doing it may be much greater than the amount of money that we're requesting to do something preemptively to ensure that we don't encounter problems that are coming, that are clearly on the agenda, clearly going to be happening in the environment that we're in right now. We can't be overtrained in the environment that we're in right now. So it would seem as though to me that that's the case that needs to be made. We're respectfully requesting that this board be further trained to do the job that you've asked us to do.
Thank you.
I'm also happy to begin inquiries with that, because we keep saying the town, and I'm like, I'm involved in that somewhere. So I'm also happy to advocate and raise these points with Steve, and maybe that's a conversation with Dutrichet, him and I, and so on, and we can look into that, because I agree with you, Dr. Charlie, as well as I do think that as a committee, we're not as equipped as we could be, and I think this is a great start. And so I agree with the notion that there should be resources put towards this, and that it's not in the best interest of, in terms of how you're all spending your time, to be doing all of that fundraising for something like this in particular. So I'll begin that inquiry and see where we can go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Paul?
And I agree with Charles. I think to some extent that we really, we have to set an agenda for the year, so that this allows us to plan, and then that helps us with whatever budget issues we may have. And I didn't want this to be a budget issue. That's not where, I just had to say, well, where, because there's only so much we have right at this particular point. So, but Charles is right. That people are going to look back at us 2 years and now, what were you doing? Why didn't you think about this? Well, we didn't think we had $700. That's a pretty feeble excuse, you know. But my point being, we should really, I know we're just starting this coming year, okay? And we're talking about a new calendar year come July 1st. We should sit down at some point, have a committee and say, what are we doing? And this is what we're going to spend our money on. Or we're going to have to go out and have maybe deal with the, team up with the library or the public schools. Donna just showed me something here while we're talking. This group is heavily involved with public education for youth. There's another avenue. You know, we've got the Danvers Public Schools right over here that I can't believe they wouldn't be interested in something like this. So, but please, let's set up an agenda. This is what's going to happen, and try to keep it within that agenda so we know what the plans are. We know where we have to be and when we have to do it.
Totally agree with setting the yearly goal. I think that's a discussion. Yes,
We don't want to put too much on Jasmine, but that
no,
would be
but
great.
that's
No, that
definitely
was, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
I said that. I
we
said that
definitely have
first.
to set those goals.
And this training might help us with some of that goal setting, even if we have to modify.
That's right. Any other questions, comments on this? You know, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, number 9, Pride recap and debrief. Kristen?
Yes, so thank you everyone for coming out. It was a great event. The subcommittee worked so hard. There were a lot of resident volunteers that spent months getting ready for the event. So for anyone listening, we're really, really grateful. We couldn't have done it without the volunteers. It was wonderful. There were lots of vendors. There was great music. All around, we heard a lot of great things. I understand there were some frustrations that there wasn't access to bathrooms and that the food trucks did not arrive. The bathrooms at the library are locked on Sundays, and there wasn't a coordinated approach with DPW, who is the only person that can open the bathrooms. And so it's unfortunate, but hopefully for future events, it won't be the case. And in terms of the food trucks, you know, the committee did the best that they could. And, you know, hopefully in the future, we'll have food trucks. But, you know, I don't know. I think everyone worked so hard. I hope the focus is not on bathrooms and food trucks at the end of the day. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And I will start on Dr. Charlie. I'll go the other way. Any comments? Amanda?
It was great. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Thank you. Bill?
I had little to do with it other than attending the last hour of it.
Thank you. Donna?
I only heard two negative things. One I won't bring up here because it wasn't worth my time. But the other one was on people didn't know about it. I don't know how they didn't know about it, but I heard that from several people that they didn't know about it. So I would just bring that forward, that maybe we try and get more information out, maybe even a little bit earlier. I don't know how we do that. I'm just saying that was the only negative comment I heard when I talked to neighbors and things about, are you coming? People didn't know about it. So we have to, yeah.
Wondering if we could bring up, again, I know we talked about it in the past, that I think our social media presence isn't what it could be, and I'm wondering if, like, Instagram especially, because people put things in their stories and it reminds them regularly, and
So I added events on Facebook for
Okay.
all of our meetings and our events for the rest of this year. And we definitely can. So personally, I have access, but I feel uncomfortable posting pictures because I don't have the capacity to get permission from everyone and go through it and everything. And so I think we can, if someone wants to take the responsibility to do that at events and make sure there's permission.
or we keep it loose.
Or we can think about that. In terms of the events though, like everything's been created. So if you follow the group, you'll see the events. I did create an Instagram for it. I haven't done anything with it yet, and there's no pictures up or anything.
I was thinking of it just because when Jasmine stated those questions that she asked of the town and, you know, moving into Juneteenth, that could be something that's really cool to have
Yeah.
as a post, because it's something that we could then reshare, and then on that day, it's something that people could really reflect on and have to talk with people around them
Yeah.
about. You know what I mean? So it's.
I think we need, so I think there's two things that I think about. One is that the town is very protective about any sort of graphics that get shared. Those have to go through an approval process, and those things take time. So like I personally can't be responsible for that. If someone wanted to, I think we'd still have to get Jen's approval for that. And so with the pages, like if we were to post about our events and pictures from the events, I don't think it's not graphics, you know, but I don't know, I feel a little boxed in. So I've done what I can following our last meeting. I made the updates that we all talked about, and going forward, I'm happy to do that, but
Yeah.
And also,
I don't think the town shared it in a timely manner, to be honest.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the problem, I think.
and even getting it out on media and stuff, because not everybody is into social media. Like, there might have been people in the senior center. I know I had some neighbors who were not older. Some of them were younger than me, because I'm getting older. But I don't know, but we just, and it's not a criticism. I thought the event was great, and I had really, really positive feedback from a lot of people about it. The only negative thing I really heard was people didn't know about it. So we just need to figure out a way. Social media is great, but there's other ways to get the word out too. And I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't love the calendar on the Town of Danvers website. It's very difficult to use, and it's not user-friendly. I'm sorry. I'm saying that, and maybe people might hear it. I'm not really sorry. I'll say it if you'd like at a board meeting. So it's not user-friendly, and I've heard that from a lot of people too. You really have to search for what you're looking for, and there should be a better calendar that people can just go to, and it should be front and center. This is what our town's doing. This is when our meetings are. These are what the events are, and not just for human rights and inclusion or library trustee. There's a lot of other groups in town as well. And that should be centralized, and that should be easy to access, and it isn't. So we do need to bring in other ways to get the word out at this point.
Thank you, and I'll have the other two members speak, and I'll also have our liaison comment because they were both part of the Pride Subcommittee. Yes, Paul?
Well, I was expecting to go down, spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes, but once I got walking near the music, you could hear the music, and it's like, hey, I grabbed a chair somewhere, sat down, and was there, almost an hour, and I thought it was great. I mean, it was close enough that people were mingling. I had been to the event the day before, which was also a good event over at the high school, but that got spread out a little bit too. And you sort of really had to walk around, and I'm not criticizing their event. They had a lot of time to set it up the way they wanted to, but I thought both events were good, to be honest with you. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I came away from the Pride thing thinking, man, this was great. And I didn't know anything about some of the issues like the food trucks, and I didn't go down there to eat anyway, so it worked for me. It was great, and I think we can certainly do better if we get maybe a little more publicity, but there are easy ways to do that too, but fabulous. Those that organized that event should be congratulated because it was outstanding, really.
Thank you. Yes, David?
Yeah, I was there. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay as long as I would have liked to because I'm not as mobile as I used to be. But I thought it was a great program. Everybody seemed to be enjoying themselves. However, it's unfortunate that it came to my attention that apparently there's some kind of a negativity campaign being waged against the whole program. There were people trying to discredit the reading of the drag queen stories, and again, more anonymous letters with alleged Twitter feeds that apparently don't exist. I brought it to the attention of our police department and the library director, who looked into it and said they could find no correlation, but it's unfortunate we still have people trying to discredit this and object to it. And I understand that one of our town meeting members, who also runs a video show in town, not going to mention his name, apparently went to the library objecting to the fact that they have books about gay subjects and the like, and saying that many, many people object to this, and he's going to try to get a petition to prevent the library from owning those books. So I guess we're getting back to book burning.
Well, we're not.
Well,
So
no,
I
we're
know,
not,
I
but there
know,
are
I
people
know.
who want to be, and my position is, if I can quote Dr. Jones from the second movie, those goose-stepping morons want to ban books, you try reading them. That's all I got to say on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Lieutenant Rob?
I just wanted to say, as our first time out of the gate, it was an excellent event. I'm glad I got a chance to be part of it. I did hear the same request about advertising. I found it on, if you went to the town's website and searched for us, the graphics that we created were there. I never thought of it until it was mentioned to me that day, but the town's landing page has the events calendar. It wasn't there. I'm looking at it right now. Juneteenth is not there as an upcoming date, so that should be there. That said, I've been on a couple of different committees with our town manager, who has said that the town is actively looking at a plan to have the website replaced. So they know it's a problem, and they'll be working on a better one in the future.
I hope I'm sooner than later.
Reverend Doc?
I was really pleased with the day. I think that the planning committee came together really well, starting in January, and it was fun working together with everybody and bringing everybody's thoughts and plans together. And the day was just a fruition of everybody's energy. The pulse of the music was mentioned already, but it was just the community coming together where people just enjoyed one another's community of just this charisma. And it was fun just milling around and meeting people and seeing people of all ages just kind of laughing and meeting one another, and young families enjoying the storytelling and enjoying just all the events that were planned and staged throughout the day. And then ending with the choir from the school singing. It was just, the whole day was glorious. It was wonderful. And so I think as we take this and we learn from this and we pick up on some things that we can do differently going into next year, I think it was just a perfect day all around. And so I was just excited to be part of it and just the energy of it. And so, so thanks for the opportunity, but I also am just so grateful that people here just kind of dug in and just everybody was so dedicated to it. And so it was very exciting.
Thank you. And kudos to I shared those sentiments, and kudos to the subcommittee. Kristen.
I know she's not here, but Eileen did
She was
the
outstanding.
most work of
I-
any member, and she deserves a big thank you.
Definitely. And also a big thanks to, is it Kathmandu, who also gave us a $500 donation for the event. Yes. So that was very nice. And also there were a lot of volunteers, just residents, who really decided to be part of it and were coming to the subcommittee meetings. So it was a really great event. And kudos again to the subcommittee for getting us the speaker for Thursday night, Representative Lewis from Framingham. So inspirational. It was really outstanding. So I think overall it was a really great event. So, thank you. Next update, Hugh recap. And Bill?
Well, at the event itself, origami ended up being a lot more popular than I had anticipated, and I was working all 4 hours teaching origami, so I didn't see much else of what went on. But I think Grant did an awful lot of the planning on that, and maybe you could add some more comments on things.
Sure. Before I have him, Bob was also manning up the HRC table. Bob, any update comments on the Hugh?
Yeah, I think it was well attended. A lot of planning went into it. I think, Dee, you get the award for the best outfit.
What was that, Bob?
Going away. What's that?
What was that? He got the award for what?
Best outfit.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I thought he got the award for the best
No
dancing.
question at all on that one.
I voted for him for best dancing.
That's true.
Fabulous.
So, and I think I distributed all of the human rights placards. So, well done.
Yeah.
Thank you for the students who showed up. They did a stupendous job.
And we didn't have a shortage of food at that event.
No, that one, yeah.
Dr. Charlie?
I just heard good things about it, and I expect hearing good feedback.
Amanda?
I wasn't able to attend, but I heard really, really good things about it, so.
Kristen?
I attended and it was fun. My kids liked the tacos and your table and the library. They did a really good job with the books, and they got to sit in the bus, and it was cute. And Bob, thank you for sitting at the table. It was great. My mother-in-law came by and was excited to see there was a table there. So
Donna?
I got there late, so I heard it was really packed in the morning and extremely successful, but there were still a ton of people there towards the end of the event. It was nice.
I think they sold about 550 seats, if I have the number right.
Wow.
Well, I was there also, I enjoyed it, I really did, I thought it was a nice event. Plenty of information, I enjoyed some of the artwork. That was a little difficult, though, you had to go get to it, you know, but then maybe you can't have that artwork outside, I understand that, but it was very enjoyable, very enjoyable.
Thank you. David?
Unfortunately, I got my calendar screwed up, was thinking it was the next week and missed it, and I'm disappointed that I did, because I heard it was a great event.
Thank you.
Heard all good things about it.
Thank you. And I understand, Reverend Doug?
No, I wasn't there for the event. No.
No, okay. I understand we have a student here that
Yes,
volunteered.
and he was involved in getting a lot of
Sure.
students there, so.
You can go to the microphone and any comments, and if you want to just introduce yourself first.
Grant Burden, he, him, his. And yeah, the event was really good, but I feel like the Irish rock band kind of got stuck in a gymnasium that was harder to find somehow than the art thing. I mean, most people didn't even know when their set was, that they were playing, or that they were even there. And they were just kind of squeezed in. And just like, I mean, I got together everybody who I could, like the volunteers who I thought would appreciate it, but I didn't see anyone besides like the janitors over there.
Well, I wanted to get to it, and I just was loaded down.
Yeah?
So,
Thank you.
So there was definitely a lot to do for everyone. I had a good time. Jasmine, you had a table as well. Wanna speak
Yes,
of
it
that?
was as busy as origami. A special shout out to my Prism and WOW students, particularly Milo and Jewo, like the students, those two in particular, but all the students were fantastic. Those two stayed from beginning to end to help clean up. We had petals flying everywhere at one point and dirt, but it was beautiful. Got to boogie a little bit with your wife. That was fun. That was a highlight for me as well. As well as I found that the moment of pause that we took was well received, and it was really nice. For me, it felt like a welcome to the community, just to see people attentive and like move towards where I was trying to hold space for everything that's gone on. And to really get us to think about, again, proactive relationship building, but also just action-oriented type things. I don't think, it was just you and I, in our debrief, we did discuss, if this happened again, or when it comes to planning events, just being, number one, trying to be very thoughtful about what happens if there is any community feedback or critique throughout the planning process, and then really trying to improve, when we receive that feedback and have a conversation about whatever it might be, making sure we're closing that loop and communicating again to the public or whoever was concerned that we had this conversation, we addressed this challenge, and here was the result of it. So I think that was like one kind of thing that we talked through in our debrief as well. But yes, it was wonderful. My other big critique was if we do this again any month but June. But I think it was a great weekend for
we
Danvers.
really attracted people from a huge age range, because I had people
Yes.
from like second graders up to senior citizens.
Yep.
Awesome. And kudos to Bob for manning the HRC table and passing those signs. We've had those signs, I think, 2 years now? And he was able to, get them out. And it was a truly great community event. And just people getting together and talking and getting to know each other. I met more people at that event that I had never met in town than any other event in the past. So it was a really good thing. I got to meet Bob's daughter and son-in-law.
Yes, great.
So, and grandkids. So it was a really great event. Next, DHS scholarship ceremony debrief. Kristen.
So we selected 3 scholarship recipients, and we announced it at the awards ceremony last week. I can just read to you what I read at the ceremony. And Jasmine was kind enough to write personal notes for each of them to go with their scholarships. So I think they were really thrilled with that. So the first recipient is described by their teachers as a caring person and a natural leader. They are involved with several extracurricular activities, including Women of the World, a mock trial, and Regional Youth Coalition Group. Through their work in the Women of the World Club, they are on a mission to inspire young girls to follow their own path and to see that gender doesn't and shouldn't define what we have the potential of doing in the future. They shared many inspiring examples of their leadership in the organization of events to promote a multicultural community within Danvers. The recipient volunteers their time on mission trips working with the homeless, serving at a local food kitchen, and singing carols to elderly community members during the holidays. The recipient stated that after going on a mission trip, they learned so much about not only how to help those in need, but how to be consistently present for those who may feel like they don't have anyone to turn to. So that first recipient was Anne Lauren DeJoco. And so just as a reminder to everyone, this was a fully blind review. All identifying information was removed for all candidates. That was led by Eileen, and then the subcommittee members reviewed those redacted things. So we didn't play favorites. We didn't know it was these up. But congratulations to Anne Lauren.
Thank you.
The second recipient is an active member of Women of the World, Students Against Destructive Decisions, Danvers Cares, and the National English Honor Society. The recipient has helped to organize food drives to help women's shelters, as well as the Light the Night Purple Walk. During a recent school walkout to support the members of the LGBTQ+ community, the recipient photographed and wrote an article about the walkout event in the school's newspaper to bring visibility and to educate the student body on this important issue. One of the recipient's teachers shared that they are a kind, respectful, and mature person displaying tremendous character and integrity on a daily basis. So the second person was Evangeline Hunter. And then the third recipient has volunteered on a number of initiatives, including collecting holiday baskets for families in need, helping run food and clothing drives, and raising money for local children's hospitals. Their work supervisor said that the recipient serves as an inspiration to many within their age group and beyond, including the supervisor and other colleagues. The recipient participates in multiple extracurriculars, including the Gay Straight Alliance and the Diversity Club, as well as has been actively involved in several HRIC events. And so the third recipient is Milena Angelikis. And that's that. So we're so happy. Thank you to the scholarship subcommittee for reviewing. I think there were probably about 10 candidates, if I remember correctly, and these three very much stood out from the others. And I think that's it. So I'm not sure if we'll have them come based on schedules. I know some years we have them come to a meeting after to meet them. Maybe we can talk about if we can do that, if we want to do that.
Sure, I think that's a good idea. David, any questions, comments?
Nope. Nope. A lot of awards given out that night.
Yes.
A lot of outstanding students down there.
All set?
Donna?
No comment.
I was on the scholarship committee for picking them, so.
Bob?
Seemed to be more this year that had the qualifications we're looking for than in the past year, and that's good to see.
Thank you. I wonder if the fact that we had new instructions, it was a little more
That helped
structure as to
immensely, I think. And
what is it that we're looking
we
for.
didn't get a lot of applications that we shouldn't have had because they weren't
So
qualified.
I think
at all.
that helped.
Yeah.
Amanda?
I was there for my daughter who received other awards that night, and I just want to say how well I thought Kristen represented this group in speaking. She did a really lovely job.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you to the subcommittee.
Dr. Charlie?
No, I always worry about the future and how we're going to be able to contend with it. But then I hear about students like this, and I believe that they're messengers that we send into the future to deal with issues that we won't be around to contend with. And so I get a little bit more confident, and I feel a little bit more secure knowing that we have young people like this who are dedicating their lives and committing themselves to doing something positive in the world. And so congratulations to the selection committee for selecting the students and for representing us at the school honors event.
Thank you, and thank you again to the Scholarship Subcommittee, and congratulations to all the recipients.
Indeed, I'd say
Yes.
more important than the money that we give is the recognition, because that's what gives them the incentive to keep doing this work.
Definitely. I'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Juneteen updates. As you saw from Josh's email, we do have a Juneteenth event that's not on the town calendar yet. So hopefully we get it there before Sunday. And before I give the update, and I think it's Donna, Bob, and Dr. Charlie, the June was kind of a rough month, so I just want to apologize for not being able to coordinate a subcommittee meeting per se. I tried to give a date, and I think Bob was away, Dr. Charlie couldn't make it, and Donna couldn't make it either. So, and then we were all into the Pride and the Hue. So it's only the past, I'll probably say what, 72 hours that we've really tried to revive what our Juneteenth would look like. Originally, we wanted to work with the North Shore Juneteenth Association, and I think that was the issue we had. They were going to run the Juneteenth event for us. Unfortunately, they were booked from the 17th to the 20th. So we had to either do it before the 17th or after June 20th. But we had already decided that we wanted to have it done on the 19th. So they were not available. So that kind of left us to scramble and do it on our own. I can say we are in good shape. We will be having a Juneteenth celebration on the 19th at 12 noon at the Library Pavilion. Thank you, Jasmine, for putting everything together. The Select Board at their last meeting approved our Juneteen Proclamation unanimously. They were very appreciative of the initiative and promised that at least some of them said they will try to attend the event as well. And I think our state rep and our state senator, Sally and Joan, might also be in attendance. What am I forgetting? Jasmine, you take it on. Oh, yes. So the event will be at the Library Pavilion. We have music, we have refreshments, we have a food truck, which is Yvonne, who was actually at the Hue event. I think she does the empanada on site.
La Frontera Sabrosa.
Yeah, La Frontera Sabrosa, yes. And then we also have Kona Ice. That's going to be there serving ice cream. It'll be free to the public. So we're inviting everyone to please join us in this special day. And as I said to the Select Board, Juneteenth is not only a time to commemorate Black liberation from the institution of slavery, but also a time to highlight the resilience, the solidarity, and the culture of the Black community. So it's our second time doing it. Believe it or not, only second. So this is going to become a new yearly event for us. Speaking of having the calendar, Paul, so we have it on the calendar now for every year.
Juneteenth is easy.
Yes. So I think that's it. And we'll read the Juneteen Proclamation. We will also read the Emancipation Proclamation and at the event, and kind of get some community members to comment as well. David, questions, comments?
Nope.
Paul?
All set.
Donna? Kristen?
I'm excited. I'll be there.
Dashmeen?
Oh, you said, I think, but I want to elevate that there's going to be an opportunity for the community to share what the holiday means to you, even in your identities. And so I encourage folks, even if you don't identify as specifically African American, just to even reflect on it if you don't, even if you don't want to share it with the public, but just to think about it.
Bill?
No comments.
Bob?
I hope it goes well.
No comment.
Dr. Charlie?
Looking forward to it.
Okay, and our liaisons, any comments? Pastor Douglas and Lieutenant Rob? Yes, Jasmine,
I
I
also
forgot
just
something, I'm
remembered,
sure.
we also are gonna have a table that we need a volunteer to man, person, to pass out brochures that have the information about the holiday, and as well as I did print out some copies of talent pool applications in case there's any interest in, you know, if people express interest in the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. So those are here. Brochures need to be folded, so just so you know.
So any volunteer to kind of man the table at the event for, and then we can also have a sign-up sheet, right?
Oh, no one ever followed that, but we need it.
Okay. Anyone who, if not, I'll choose a volunteer.
I volunteer to fold them.
We're so
but
good at it.
I know, but I can't commit to being there the whole time because I'll have my kids, so.
Yeah. For the sign-up sheet too, I know we had one for Hugh, but I don't remember how that happened. So whoever created the sign-up sheet that was at the Hugh event, if you have the link or the PDF
Okay.
to share it, please bring it.
Oh, the want to learn more information thing?
I think so. I never saw what it
Oh,
looked
yeah,
like. But
I have it, I made it.
perfect.
I thought you were talking about sign-up sheet for someone to sit at the table.
No, the
Oh,
sign-up
okay.
sheet for the
Yes, I have
sorry,
that.
yes.
I'll send that.
72 hours, y'all.
Any? No? Okay, so we'll figure out when we get there on Sunday then. So, next will be Mlk Planning. We want to get ahead of it so we can make it to the calendar, at least 48 hours before. Right? So, Paul and Bob, MLK.
Who wants to be on this committee?
Yeah.
Last year, we had Amanda, Bob, Bill, Dee, and myself. Correct? Aye.
I believe so.
Yeah, that was it. One, two, that was it. Is there anybody else that wants to jump in?
Well, I'll help again, Paul.
Huh?
I'll help some more.
I'm happy to be on it again, but if somebody else would really like
Well,
to be on it, I'm okay with
yeah.
stepping back either way.
It's our signature event. We've got to make it as great as always.
Well, it'll be the first time, in over what, it'll be 2 years we haven't.
Live this year.
So we're hoping to have it.
Because
Hopefully it'll be
Omicron variant
similar
came out
to what
just
we've had.
before.
Jasmine, I think maybe we could use you here also. Really?
So, yeah, so what I'll probably suggest is maybe Bob and you can maybe with Jasmine and kind of
Set it up.
set it up and then get the subcommittee working
Well, I
and
think,
look
yeah,
at how.
we should probably meet sometime this summer.
Yeah.
It's not like we may at some point reinvent the wheel here, but I don't think this time it's gonna be the time.
Because I think, I mean, we in the past we've talked about having a guest speaker and things like that. So if we want to have someone
Yeah.
to come as a guest speaker, this is the time to start to
The
reach out.
question is whether the pandemic is going to interfere again. We don't know, you know, it's
Yeah,
we really
if that
don't know.
happens, we're right back where we started, but
Yeah.
there's really two things. It's always been held since we've moved it away from the original Danvers Port Yacht Club. Evening, was an evening event. We've moved it to the schools, to the high school, and it's taken off. Puts less pressure on us having to fill the house, sell tickets and do all that. And it's really getting to be a big event. it's become very easy to organize with the help of the schools. We have artwork, we have music, we have participation from the students. We need the biggest, I think, fair to say, one of the main things that we have to come up with, if we want to, is a guest speaker. Someone that'll get up and speak to the event, why we're having it, keep within a 20-minute time frame, and yet get a point across. That's number one. The other thing that we've had, which we've touched upon today, the other issue has always been trying to raise funds around the event. Other than that, the schools help us tremendously. We have a nice reception before it for about an hour before the program starts, and the program ends within an hour. So it's really a 2-hour event. I've been on it for a long time with other folks that aren't here right now. Everybody's been on it seems, a little bit, but so it seems like it runs very well if we and the reason is we get the cooperation of the schools, the school department. We have the facility, we don't have to pay rent, it's there, kids participate, the families come because their kids are involved with the event, whether it's music or art. It's a big winner for us in town.
It's a great chance for some of the younger kids to display their artwork.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why parents come and want to have their children there, and it's really, when you talk about what we're trying to do as a committee, and you want to get children started young, or realizing what's ahead of them, this is a great event.
One other thing too that we talked about last year, that if we were gonna consider doing it, we would need more time to plan, which is the idea of having it include a service experience. I know that
You started a little bit, right?
I did, yeah, and that came from my experience having participated in an AmeriCorps program where it was considered a day on, not a day off, and like, you know, Martin Luther King's legacy of serving others, what are you doing to serve your community? And I think in some ways the event already highlights that, because there is a lot of, you know, community coming together, but if we wanted to enhance that and offer opportunities for service projects, I think it would be something that we'd have to start sooner. We couldn't do that like in the month or two before.
No, and I think that's an area that it takes a lot of planning, I believe, to do that. And you have to start that probably sometime in, I don't know, now?
Now, yeah, yesterday.
I was gonna say September, but that's not even good enough.
Could you have like vendor booths set up that are people that are service organizations? So you're not coordinating service, but you're connecting people to service? I mean, that could be easier for us.
And one of the ideas that we were gonna do, and then, you know, it kind of fell apart because of the COVID issue, but we were gonna do a community art project together. So some sort of collaborative art piece that people could participate just being there, and that was
the original plan, right?
Well, that was our way of doing like modified service, just
Sure.
because we couldn't go out into the community and have these, you know, intensive service projects that took the whole day or whatever. But that would have been.
I think we should investigate that and follow up.
I think we should
But I
still
think,
consider
again, we
something
have-
like that, yeah.
But we really have to get on it pretty quick.
So, is it fair to say that you will reach out to Judgment to kind of have a framework before our next meeting as to what?
Why don't
Yeah, the last
I
meeting,
emailed.
the last event was January the 18th. And that was the,
Yes, we always do it on Martin
On the
Luther King
holiday.
Day.
This all sounds good. And also, I kind of want to take a step back and think about the conversation we had earlier about the calendar year and the goal setting. And so I agree that planning for MLK needs to happen, like start soon. And also, if there are other things that we're planning to do in the fall in order of prioritization or organization between who's working on what, I think we need to take that into account as well. So I would suggest a way of us doing this perhaps is like at our next meeting, having kind of our fiscal calendar year, right? So like July to June of the next year, deciding, agreeing as a committee what events you all want to have as the main focus, so that we know, so that we don't dive into to planning MLK and then like it's September and suddenly it's like, oh, we should be doing something for Hispanic Heritage Month, you know? So that would be kind of my suggestion. And that can happen like in tandem with us planning, coordinating when to sit down and talk about MLK. But again, I think having that timeline that says this is what we want to do and these are the things that we know, not to bring up the budget again, but that these are the areas where the money is going to go. That would be my recommendation as that like overview before we focus.
And we have a template that Eileen created for this year, and so we can, if we need to send, I have a copy of that handy, so I can send that around, and maybe we start there, and then I think it was set up well where it was the event and the month, and then the subcommittee members and liaisons, because I think we had to be sure we didn't have too many committee members, so I can send that, and maybe that can be a starting point for us.
We should plan on getting together, the three of us, on the MLK thing as soon as possible. I'm not saying have a series and series and series of meetings.
Just an overview.
Just an overview of what has been going on, and probably do it between now and the middle of July.
Exactly.
But it's your schedule, you know, Bob and I, we can, I think, right, Bob, we can make it. And we don't have to do it, you know, it could be anytime during the day. If you can't, we'll just find a day.
Well, she has open hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Thank you,
What time are
Dutrice.
the hours again?
10:30
Tuesdays,
to
10:30
12.
to 12.
on Tuesdays.
Why don't we do something like that?
Okay. I will
So,
email you
At
both.
least we can
You
have
have my
you,
email, right? Okay.
you can come up with just at least a framework as to
Yeah,
where we're going. And I'm just glad we're talking about MLK in June. This has never happened before.
It's always in September.
Usually we start talking about it in September or October, so that's progress.
Yeah.
Yes, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to remind the committee, we have a lot of new faces in the central office at the school department.
Right.
So might want to touch base with them early and make sure they're up to speed on what they're supposed to be doing and what they've been doing in the past, so we don't run into snags at the last minute.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I can get a hold of Mary
Yeah.
Warner.
The good thing is Mary Warner was involved, so was Alex Grover.
Right, Alex is,
So,
yeah, then you.
and they're still there. But yes.
And I would just say, I mean, these are both names that I know and have met with, and I'm like, I'll add it to the list of things I want to talk to Mary about when I speak to her again. And I will share like my big vision is for us to have the same, like for the town, including this committee and the schools and the library. I would love a future in which we're all operating from the same calendar, more or less. So like, yes, yes, I want to have conversations about Blackness, not just in February, but like having those major touchstones of like, we know between the town, the schools, and the library, we all want to do something for MLK, boom. We know for Pride Month, we all want to get together to collaborate on something for Pride, boom. So that's the kind of future that I'm working towards, so that we know who we're going to, you know, again, as this whole calendar year rolls out, and we're on the same page for that.
Perfect.
Fine.
Thank you. Liaison update, Pastor Douglas.
I don't have a report this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Lieutenant Rob?
As I tried and failed to quietly step out of the meeting, I called the station just to see if I can give some more information about the installation of the crosswalk. Sometimes companies will call in if they're shutting down streets. I checked to see if we had any info, but unfortunately we don't.
And Eric is not here. And David is not here. For the select board update, David is not here, but I can report, and we already know the crosswalk was unanimously supported by the select board. I was at the meeting to speak of it, and they also voted to approve our Juneteen Proclamation unanimously. So,
Do they have to approve that every year, or is that just something that they do once?
well, and that depends on the way we draft it, and I think that came up, and that's something that I have shared with David Mills. We would like it to be approved every year, but we hope that we don't have to be the one to bring it to them every year. We wanted it to be them bringing it up, like we've brought it already twice. Hopefully,
Yeah, we've done it 2 years ago.
exactly. So we're hoping that they have it as a standing thing every June now, where they have it as an agenda item to take it on.
Excellent.
And if we have to go speak to it, then that's fine.
All right. Okay.
Any new business? I have a few. The first one is, and this discussion kind of came up, and if you've noticed, I kind of call on members today more than I usually do, because discussing with Jasmine and a few community members, it appeared that the meeting was a lot of reporting out of things and very less discussion. So we want to really encourage everyone to get involved in the discussion and the sharing of ideas. We have reports from subcommittee members, that's important, but we also want to, and it doesn't mean that you have to say something we don't have anything to say, but I think that hearing from committee members and having the back and forth is something that I think we should do more of. Also, as far as the liaison updates, something that I want to bring up to the community to think about, and we have a liaison from the Interfaith Partnership, from the police, from the select board, and from the school. I was at the select board meeting last Tuesday and reported on some item of interest from this committee. And I know David already does that, but I think we want to have a way for us to sometimes be present in those spaces as well, and not just have the report from this committee be filtered through the liaison. I don't know if I'm making myself. So Eric reports to the school committee for item of interest from this committee. That's great. But I think there has to be times where a member, I don't want to take that on as the person that's going to go to 7 different committees around town and report on item of interest. But I think it's important that maybe once a quarter or every other month, I'm not sure, we discuss to this other committee and have a member of this committee be present at their meeting and report on items without filtering it through the liaison member. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So I was at the select board meeting last Tuesday. What I said was different from what David would have reported. And if they had other questions, I could have been in a better position to answer than he would have been, because he will be reporting to them as a liaison and I will be speaking to them as a committee member. Same thing with the school. If we have item of interest, and I'm not saying Eric is not doing a good job reporting back to the school, but there could be times where we actually have a member of this committee at the school committee speaking directly to school committee members about some item of interest and maybe answer their questions. I would love to go to an interfaith partnership meeting, because I don't know what they do there. I mean, it's kind of like this will create a two-way, well, I don't know what they do. Not well, I just, because now everything that we do is reported to that committee through the lens of Pastor Douglas. Well, he's probably doing a very good job, but I think that having a member of this committee being out there and having that presence and reporting it without the filter of Pastor Douglas would be a good thing. Any thought, comments about that? And this will require all of us to really share the burden, I don't want to call it a burden. Maybe I go to maybe I go to the school committee next month, and the next one, Bob goes to the library trustee. And then the next time, maybe there's a meeting at the police station where they're talking about some of these issues. Dr. Charlie will go there for a few minutes and speak as to the common goal that we have to really, I don't know. I feel like I'm mumbling.
No,
Chairman. I almost call you Dr.
Yes.
Chairman. I have a question about specifically the first piece where you were talking about increasing discussion between committee members. I was just curious how you see our liaisons who are here fitting into that conversation, because I do think they would have a rich insights to offer, and also I can see how it could be confusing if it's like, are they sharing it on behalf of themselves, or are they sharing an opinion or thought on behalf of their whole group that they're liaising. So I'm curious if you have thoughts or clarity on what their role would be in discussion among the committee.
That's something for the committee to decide. It's not me. But my thought process is, and in the same line, maybe if the liaison have things to report, maybe that even comes to us before the meeting, and members of the committee could have more questions. So the meeting will be more discussions and questions and clarifications on items that the liaison, because if I sit here and Pastor Douglas says this is what we're doing, I may not have enough time to process it to have that discussion. And that's what we have, because those items are not on the agenda. When we have an agenda, we prepare ourselves knowing what we're going to be discussing. But when we have liaison updates, we don't know what it is about. We don't necessarily need to have like every details, but maybe the highlights. Then we can be a more informed, not only audience, but participant into the discussion. And as far as things that pertain to the committee, I've always said liaisons are more than welcome to share their opinion or ideas, even though they are not voting members. And if they want to clarify, well, this is my own opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole department, that's fine as well. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
For me, I don't know if liaisons actually had questions.
Any
or if that
questions,
answers any
comments
questions you had.
about this idea of restructuring things so that we can also go to these other meetings and report directly with no filter from liaisons, and also maybe getting an idea as to what the liaisons are going to speak of before the day of the meeting, so that we can engage a little more on the discussions. Yes.
I think if we wanted, I think that would be really beneficial to decide either it's topic-driven or frequency-driven, that we go to different committees. I think it would really need to be a shared responsibility. I think there's a lot of work that probably is unnoticed in this, and that goes on behind the scenes, and to take on more I think it would need to just be spread across the committee. And so I don't know if everyone is willing to do that, or how we would set that up. I support the idea. I just don't want it to fall on the same 2 or 3 people that, it's a lot of extra work, so.
Yes, Bill?
I think we'd like to start by listing which groups we want to have contact with, and then get one of us to be representative to just one group for each of several different people.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably say I'll start by the 4 liaisons that we have as groups, and I don't know if we necessarily want to have one person as a liaison to that group, because there could be a topic at the school where I feel more comfortable speaking about, and then the next time it could be Bill.
But if you had one person specifically for that, then they could, and there's something else, they could just say, somebody else, will you go to this meeting? It wouldn't have to necessarily be that person to every meeting. David had something.
Yes, David.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you really need to have a liaison going to, for example, Board of Selectors meeting, every meeting.
Not at all.
But if something important comes up, I think it's gonna be a case of, it might be me, it might be Bob, might be Charlie that's passionate about it, that wants to go and make that presentation. and I think it should be done on an as-need basis. I think it'd be more sensible than to have, rather than having one person assigned to a board that may not have the passion on the particular item that's coming up. Just my thought.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is have one person assigned, but then it's their responsibility if there's somebody else that is dealing with an issue in particular to attend instead of them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we need to have committee members tied up with another monthly or bi-weekly meeting every month.
Yeah.
Most of us are pretty busy already. And maybe some of you have time, I know I don't.
Yeah, and the intent of this proposal, I definitely don't think that we can have someone to go to every meeting every month.
No,
It's maybe 4 times a year. Because we already have liaisons who report on item of interest to this committee.
Yep.
I just feel that having our presence in those settings could make a difference and could be important. Again, I mean, food for thought. We don't have to vote on this. I just thought I'll bring it up for discussion as something to think about. And if that's the direction we want to go, then we can decide yes.
No, I just think it's an excellent idea. I think it also increases communication, which is always good, because there might be issues. If I were to go speak to the police department, there might be something that just pops up during that presentation or that communication. So I think it's a good idea. Aren't we the committee that has like so many subcommittees?
We do.
We might need to do another one though.
No, again, this is just because, and as David said, we can speak on specific items. Like if something comes up at the library, we may want to say, well, we need a member of this committee to not just rely on the liaison, but to actually go to the meeting and speak of this issue. But there could also be instances where this committee feels the need to just report on item of interest to a specific committee. And we can do that as well.
So perhaps it's agenda-driven, like we said, and if there's something that we feel strongly enough about, that we want to bring it to one of the other committees, we talk about it here, we identify someone to go.
Exactly. And not just rely on the liaison. Okay.
Yeah, rather than all of these boards and committees being isolated, I mean, this would give us the opportunity, would give us a presence. I mean, you mentioned the library. I mean, we talked earlier about a petition going on to ban books, ban materials, not only going on in Danvers, it's going on across the country. Well, that's within our Provence. Same with the schools. I mean, the school board, especially right now, when things are hot. You know, it's in our interest to know what's going on. And the select board, well, I'd say, I'd attend every meeting.
I think we're well covered on the select board.
Yeah.
Simply because I'll be honest with myself, I end up looking at their agenda every 2 weeks, because there might be something just related to finances. And if I want to go down, we go down. But that could be easily handled on a, I think, simple phone call. You know? And while with that thought in mind, I'll be more than happy to go down go over to the September or October school board meeting, because we can talk about MLK. Let's give them all the updates they need and how we're working with them. So I'll volunteer to do that one. Frankly, Bob can come with it when anybody wants to come.
They'll see us. They'll know we're there.
Right.
Yeah, so definitely, that's what I'm saying.
That's the kind
So
of thing, right?
that's the kind of thing where Eric will be reporting to them about these issues, but if there's something that we really feel passionate about, I think one of us should be able, or a few of us, or the whole committee for that matter. I just don't want to put more work on everyone, but the more the better. But just think our presence can make a difference. Couple more item of interest that I would like to report on. Few weeks ago, and I forgot to report last meeting, that we attended an ADL breakfast, and that was actually, we were invited. There was a cost to it, but it didn't cost the town anything. It was a really great program. I think what does Eileen work
North Shore
for?
Bank.
North Shore Bank sponsor us to attend. I know Jasmine was there, Christine was there, I was there, the chief was there, Lieutenant Rob was there. There were a lot of school people and a lot of people from all the surrounding communities, and it was a really great program put together by the ADL. Last Saturday on the 11th, I also attended the Race Amity Day in Beverly. I was invited by Hypnia, and they actually gave me the honor to read. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but the Race Amity Day Proclamation that was signed by the Governor Charles Baker, and during my reading, at the end there you read the names, and twice I said Charlie Baker. Even though I was looking at the paper, it says Charles Baker. But it was a really good program. They had an African drumming group, and they hoping that next year for the North Shore they want to host that event in Danvers. So that is they go from community to communities, and they are hoping that we are open to the idea that next is the second Sunday in June. Yeah, it's June. Another June thing. So
Keep that in mind when you're planning.
yes, it's the second Sunday in June. So the Sunday before June, the week before Juneteenth. They're hoping to host that next year here. So as we discuss with the Hypnia about the training, this is also something that we want to start thinking about if we are interested. That's it for me for any other new business? Yes, David?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There was something in the news maybe a week and a half ago that there was an attack on a church in a neighboring community. And when the perpetrator was found, apparently he made a comment to the effect that we need to wipe out all of these people. Apparently it was a satanic church over in Salem, had some arson. And I just find it ironic that churches seem to be one of our greatest sources of hatred. I mean, you get the Christians against the Satanists. You got the Westboro Baptist Church where protesting at religious, military funerals. It's unfortunate, religion is supposed to be about love. And somehow or other, it seems to get twisted around. And in so many cases, it leads to more hatred. And I don't know how we get past that. We get people that supposedly are well-meaning that just get a twisted message out of what they read out of their Bible or the Quran or whatever book they're reading that tells them how they should live and how everybody else should live. And, it's not an easy question to think about. But, people that are supposed to be good people are doing some pretty nasty things out there in the name of God. Something to think about.
No,
Killed the mood on that one, didn't I?
Well, I'll pick it back up. I have one that, I don't know if you wanted to talk about what I texted you about, but maybe we could think about pausing over the summer break.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to say?
Yes.
You want me to say it? Yeah.
Sure.
So I just was reflecting on everything that's gone on since November and the fact that this committee used to take the summer off for a couple of months, and I wondered if it wouldn't behoove us to recharge for July and August and come back in September ready to do all of this work. I think everyone's worked really, really hard, and I don't know, sometimes we need to recharge to keep going, so just a thought.
I agree with you. I think we should take a little breather, and if we need be, we can have an emergency meeting. Unless the committee feels differently.
Yeah, in the past, we will take June 2 September off.
Actually, no, we
Yeah.
actually met unofficially in June.
Yeah, we will have a dinner in
July
June.
and August were sort of like
And
if we need.
yes,
Right.
July, August, we take it off and reconvene in September. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to the idea if other committee members. David, any comments on that?
We've done it in the past, and I think it does give us a chance to refresh our thoughts and come back ready to tear things apart in the fall.
Okay, Polly say yes.
In the
and
meantime, you know, I think, like we talked, we can have those meetings that we have to have individually,
Right.
subcommittees and things like that, that I think are important to start on, for instance, MLK.
Perfect.
Yes, I agree.
You're in agreement? You're nodding, Don?
Yes, good
Okay.
idea.
Bill?
Whatever we need to do, we do.
Bob?
Yeah, I think a break would be in order.
Amanda?
I think a break, but I also like the idea if anything does come up that we can kind of pull together.
Yeah.
If people aren't available, that's okay, but yeah, I like that.
Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think also, Jasmine, you unfortunately can't take July and August off, but you could stay in touch with our chair, and if any items came up that seemed to be worthy for us to convene, independent of whenever it happens, that we notify the chair, and at his discretion, he brings us back together to convene and address the issue that might arise. But otherwise, we're on hiatus for the next 2 months.
Okay. Sounds like I get an agreement here. No, I don't think this requires a vote.
Okay.
No. Any other new business?
Do you
Yes.
want a report on what happened at the library since David brought it up? Or do you want to just let that lie?
If we want to bring it up on the new business, that's fine.
Okay. Do people want to hear what happened at the library?
Sure.
All right. Since
I'm
Charlie
sorry,
and
I can't hear you.
I just thought I would talk, since David brought
Get
it up.
the microphone closer.
Can you hear now?
Be a rock star.
Okay. I just thought since David brought it up, we could give a quick report about what actually happened at the library. We were kind of blindsided. When we came in for our meeting, there was a member of the community there with a video camera, ready to videotape the whole meeting, and we let that person go first, so then we could get on with our business. And essentially, it came down to, he was very opposed to the fact that we used library grounds for the Pride event. He had very specific, he was very upset about the drag queen readings. He had no idea what they were, and he had no idea who was doing the readings, but he looked up some stuff online and read about some other person who's read in another town, wasn't even here, or the person that we had doing the reading. Anyways, he didn't like the fact that we were using library property to hold the event. He didn't like that we had the event. He didn't like the children were there at the event. I did ask if he was actually there and if he actually attended before he came in to make his grievance known, and he, in fact, was not there, nor were any of the many, many people that turned to him to come to us. So I said, well, how many is many, many? I said, is that 3? Is that 5? Because those of you who know me. He wouldn't come up with a number. He just kept repeating many, many. So we really don't know how many people asked him to come forward with this grievance. We then pointed out the fact that the library does not, in fact, own the grounds. That was the town, and that the library really did not host the event, that it was put on by the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee with the blessing of the town, since it was their property. And then he argued with us that we were wrong, and that went on for a while. And then when he got nowhere with that, then he turned around and started talking about the books in the library. And it's really horrible in the children's library because the books are all at children's level, which makes sense because it's a children's library. Again, I didn't point that out. And then Noelle is wonderful. She's our new library director. If you haven't met her, she's amazing. She pointed out that there is, in fact, a process. If you are unhappy with a particular book, you can, in fact, bring that to her attention. And there is a process to deal with it. he asked, can they be done anonymously? And she said no, because it cannot. We do have a system. It is online. It's all very open, very upfront. Anybody can look it up, and anybody can bring up a book that they might have an issue with. But they do have to be members of our community. They can't be people coming in from other towns, other places, other states. They have to be members of our community, and they do have to put a name to the grievance. And they do have to cite a specific book. Because just coming in and saying, I don't like LGBT books, it doesn't really cut it. So I just wanted everyone here to know that there is actually a process when people do come in and complain about a particular topic. We have no idea how many people even came forth with this grievance, because many to me is not an actual number. And again, we had the blessing of the town, and it wasn't the library's function, so we kind of just pointed out he was in the wrong place. So I don't know if anyone here
I
is.
would invite that individual to this dialogue that we're.
I was hoping that individual was going to come tonight, but again, cowards don't always follow through.
I'm surprised too, because he loves the camera. He
Well,
admits it. Publicly.
I don't think he liked being put in his place, but I didn't. Oh, I did say that out loud. I actually said that on TV. Hi. Anyways, I'm sorry. That's why I can't go to a lot of meetings and talk, and I'm really being subdued right now. Anyways, I just didn't know if anyone here had any questions, because David brought it up. It kind of took everyone by surprise. We didn't know that was coming at us. Noel was great. I've got to tell you, all of the library directors, except for one or two, were very vocal about supporting this event and said that we plan to do it again. We had the support of the entire board and the library director. She was very supportive. So I don't know. I just wanted to let everyone know what happened, just because it came up. So I don't know if you have any questions or comments.
I have one comment on it in the future as well. Should grievances like that come up as well, you can invite those individuals to contact me directly, and I can attempt to engage in dialogue as well, emphasis on dialogue. But as long as community members know that there are other outlets, like, it's important that community members feel heard. And again, the exchange of ideas is welcome. I'll emphasize that point. Yeah, feel free to let that be known as well.
Okay,
in
thank
my
you.
role.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to commend the members of the library board or the trustees for giving that gentleman his opportunity to grieve and to offer some criticism or some facts for him to maybe digest. He might have learned something at this meeting, and he should come to. If he's welcome to come to any of these meetings too. And thank you for the library board for being so patient.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Donna. And I also would like to officially thank the library director and Jillian and everyone at the library for, I mean, the events they were very supportive. Shorpa, they actually had a table, and the kids had a blast. I mean, I was there, my kids were there, and it was fun. And I will also just want to remind members of our community, and I said this at the select board meeting on last week. You know, the pride flag or the rainbow flag or rainbow crosswalk, you know, I think it shows that when we fly one of those in our town, it shows there's a commitment to affirming the LGBTQ plus lived experience. As David Mills like to say, the flag is more than the cloth and the stripes. It is action. And the symbolism is incredibly important because, like many lived experience, that makes up our community. For some people, all is great and well. For others, they are still hiding from their family and friends. For some people, you know, they're still unsure on what to do. And anytime someone sees the rainbow flag or the rainbow crosswalk, they can know that they are welcome in their community. And I think it's important that our community member really help us continue to build that compassionate community, especially for the LGBTQ youth, which we all know have a very high percentage of suicide. So when we do these things, we are attempting to save lives. And this is so important, and I can speak for this committee, that we will continue to be committed to addressing any kind of discrimination against people of the LGBTQ plus community. And I said at the select board meeting, a few cans of paint and a flag of some rainbow can't wipe every prejudice to make people feel safe and comfortable at all times. We still need to continue with deeper and more meaningful work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only in our community, but in our schools, in our homes, and in our whole community at large. So, and maybe once the work is done, fewer people will be surprised when they actually see a rainbow flag or a rainbow crosswalk. So we do have a lot of work to do, but I'm just calling on our community to really realize that we're just trying to be compassionate community. I was just at a meeting this morning, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the MGB at a trustee meeting this morning, where they were talking about the determinant of health and how the compassionate community is as important, if not more important, than going to a doctor. The compassionate community is more important than the money we spend in healthcare. So the work that we do, I would just urge community members to really open up, get out of the tunnel vision, open your heart, and just see things from a different perspective. And hopefully we get to a place where we don't have these kind of issues. And it doesn't mean people don't have the right to ask questions or hold us accountable. If you want to ask questions or hold us accountable, you also have to be open to the idea that the answer we give you may not be what you want. So I guess yeah, but
I just want to add that, David Mills at the last meeting, I believe, complained that the rainbow flag at the schools was sandwich size, and he was going to deliver. I passed Dunn Middle School on full banner size. So I don't know whether that was David Mills or.
I'm not sure. But any other new business? Here none. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Good night, Danvers. Thank you.